What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Pokemon Rants. Much like Earth's ecosystem, the Pokemon community has a plethora of intertwined systems, people, and intersections that allow it to sustain and thrive over time. The sun is a key factor to provide nutrients for the life needed here on Earth. Lee at PokeSunTCG is much like that oh so important star. Lee shines bright in this hobby, sharing her love of Pokemon with children, charity events, content creation, podcasts, and so much more. Her rays of light reveal a true collector at heart and a passion for decades to come. So let's put on our glasses, blind ourselves in the PokeSun, and welcome Lee to Pokemon Wonder. Lee, welcome.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, everybody who's here watching. I appreciate you supporting, and I'm excited to have a conversation with you guys.
I'm thrilled to have you. And as I said before, I always say it because I always mean it. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll jump in. We are on a scheduled time frame, so we'll try to make sure we honor that. We got kids that need us, so we're going to make sure we try to stick to that. But I think we still have plenty of time for a great conversation. So Lee, kick it off for us. You know how I like to do it. You know how I like to start in. Where'd you get started? But please go a little deeper. Look back at that log. What was those first interactions? What was that first memory? Maybe some of the first packs or cards. Just dig a little bit for us.
Sure. So I started collecting Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh growing up as a kid.
Okay.
I also played the TCG on the weekends at the local game store called Hastings.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at the time I was living in a super small town called Manhattan, Kansas. People immediately think of Wizard of the Oz when I mention Kansas because it's known for tornadoes. And,
right.
And because it's such a small town, the player and collector base was just so small. So I ventured online to trade with the other collectors around the world. And I joined this Pokemon trading card forum and did a lot of online trading. And I was just aiming for, Charizards and special Japanese promo cards and cards you couldn't get locally at a small town like Kansas. So Korokoro promo, Japanese shiny Mew. And I remember one of the best trade I did was trading my fossil Mug Hollow for a base set Hollow Charizard. That was one of my
somebody lost and somebody won.
Well, sure. I think at that time people didn't really associate value too much with the cards. And so I was able to, trade for the card that I really like, and maybe Muck is the card for them.
You never know. Never know. So Hastings was the store. Is that also where you got to buy your initial packs? What was that first experience? When did you get that first pack? Do you remember?
Wow, that is, I have to dig deep for that one. One of the first pack I remember was more jungle. I was more into jungle. I have a lot of jungle and fossil packs. So I have, quite a bit of the evolution back then. I have Flareon, Jolteon that were pulled with multiple copies in my old binder. And so I think one of my first packs that I started off with was jungle.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny. I got a whole stack of jungle right here. We're going through for inventory right now. It's
nice.
It's ironic that you mentioned that. Were you also focused on Japanese, or because you mentioned it in terms of what you were looking for? And I know when I was talking to Ivy and a few others, they were mentioning that, hey, I actually opened a lot of Japanese as a kid. Was that the same for you, or did you actually focus more on English?
Well, I had to focus more. Yeah, I had to focus more on English because I didn't really have any access to Japanese products locally.
Okay.
So I really had to, venture out onto the web space to get some of the Japanese cards or the Japanese packs. But I was mostly English because I also played in tournaments and over the weekends where I earned badges and like promos that you would earn for playing.
Nice. one of the things that comes to mind when I think about this is I was just showing this on one of the streams recently. The pins, the badges that you would get. Is that what you were actually collecting as a kid?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I'll have to show you those later, but yeah. Really cool stuff. Those are a piece of history that I just thoroughly enjoy.
I am surprised that I have them. I still have them somewhere in the closet. So it's always fun to bring it out and take a look and kind of remember what it used to be like when I was little playing in these tournaments.
I love it. Yeah, I'd love to see those one day. Show me. Maybe take a picture and share it with us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So color this with the year, though. What year was this for you? Give us the context.
So this
in terms of playing tournaments, Hastings, that time.
Yeah. So that was when I was in middle school. So that's like almost 15 plus 18 years ago.
Okay.
And then I moved to St. Louis, Missouri. And at that time, I kind of put a pause on Pokemon. I was actually really into anime. So I created a website based on popular anime at the time, which was Naruto, Bleach. And believe it or not, One Piece was actually big back then as well. So that was back in 2005, 2004, I think is when those anime started becoming popular. And so I built this community up because it had a lot of hype at that time. Social media wasn't a big thing either, so it was just pure hype. And I was offering like membership services on my webpage. So I was, able to make a pretty good amount of money, like $1,000 to $2,000 a month as a high schooler at that time.
Awesome.
And then later on, I had to sell the web page or the website. I sold it for around $4,000, which was a nice down payment for a car.
Right. Wow. So you have some technical background skills as well, doing web development?
Yeah, believe it or not, I had to teach myself HTML and PHP, and so it's not
some CSS.
Yeah, it's so different back then because you don't have, options like Wix where it can just kind of automatically make a web page for you based on just drag and drop. Back then, I had to, input like certain numbers and codes in order to make the website menu.
Move it this way.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like quite a struggle for me because I was self-taught. I had to teach myself this on my spare time because, I was really into it. And when I'm into something, I get overly obsessed and I just continue to kind of teach myself until I get it down. And so, that's why I got into this whole, I don't even know how that was possible, but I was able to build my own webpage somehow.
I can relate. That's actually my degree was in business application development, which was in software design. So
wow.
Fully understand. Yeah. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And Ep says, and she's smart. Shout out to all the web devs out there. That's right. Good to see you, Jake. Good to see you, buddy.
Thank you for being here.
So link that maybe skill set, that journey. You're moving out of middle school. You'll move to another state. What's your degree in? What's your background?
So my degree, well, after high school, I decided to do something out of character. I joined the military, went to boot camp. I wanted a big
National
change.
Guard, right?
Yeah, the Army National Guard. So I joined the Army National Guard, and at that time I had to stash away my Pokemon cards in my mom's basement. But to answer your question, my degree is in nursing. So basic bachelor degree in nursing, and now I got a master in nursing. So a nurse practitioner.
Okay. And is that what you did in National Guard as well? You went to National Guard to learn that skill set? Okay.
Exactly. So I was in the National Guard, and I really enjoyed being a combat lifesaver, which is a course you have to take. So being basically a nurse for the people.
Soldiers,
exactly.
Yeah. I'm with you. I was in the Army as well, so I can relate.
Yeah.
Did you get deployed to anywhere? and where were you stationed?
I did not get deployed. I almost got deployed 3 different times to Kosovo,
Mm,
Egypt for peacekeeping missions, but that never happened because I joined the ROTC while I was in
okay.
college for a couple years,
Yeah.
and that kind of protected me from being, deployed at the time.
Okay. Yeah, I was ironically, I was in the ROTC in high school for Air Force, but I ended up
Oh,
going into
okay.
the Army
Okay.
because when I tried to go into the Air Force, which is really what I wanted to do, um, I didn't
Yeah.
realize at the time I was colorblind, and of course you can't,
Oh,
you can't,
yeah, that
you
kind of
can't,
disqualified you
can't fly a plane. And it's like, yeah, that's a no, that's a no. So, yeah. But yeah, okay. So you got your degree there, and they
Mhm.
obviously help pay for it. So that's a great way, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get some
Exactly.
assistance on your college education, and military is there. Um,
Mhm.
while we're there, I want to dive in a little bit, Lee.
Hmm.
What was that military experience like? 'Cause I know what mine was like, and I'll share it with you. But what was yours like? I mean, you chose to go there. Some people are for, some people don't have another option, but you chose to go. Was it what you thought?
Yeah, so growing up in a small town, it was not diverse at all. And,
Mm,
as in elementary school, I was bullied quite a bit. And so I wanted to
mm,
make that change to better myself. And so that's why I want to be like a stronger person, more independent, and to
mm-hmm,
really fend for myself in a way, right? So I joined the military and I was able to gain such a good experience.
mm,
And one of the things I really liked or enjoyed as part of my experience in the military is that the drill sergeant said, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, yellow, or purple, we all bleed red. And so
that's right. That's
that
right.
really made me feel like there's a sense of unity. And I think I really needed something like that in my life.
Right.
So that was one of the
Mm,
best experience I had. Of course, it was very treacherous and it was very hard. We have to wake up early in the morning. We have to work as
yeah.
a team. If one person messes up, then everybody gets punished with a bunch of push-ups. I was able to learn things
Yep.
like, how to clean a gun, how to shoot a weapon, how to throw a grenade. So I think those are all valuable experiences that I don't think anybody else would have experienced if they didn't go down this
Fully agree.
path.
Fully agree. I went in right out of high school myself, so I was 18, and um, looking back, I just don't think I knew what I wanted to do yet. Now, when I went in, I told myself that I wanted to be on the front lines. I wanted to be the guy out there, fighting the battles in war. Um, and part of that was, I think, true. But once I got in, I saw so many different things. So I was Fort Benning, Georgia, and I stayed there the whole time. I saw so many different things that changed my perspective on military to some degree. And then they started to. I was airborne ranger,
Mhm.
and what we ended up doing after airborne school is they didn't have any trainers for a ranger. So they said, well, we're going to put you in holdover. And we stayed in holdover for 5 months. I mean, it was a long time. And like every couple of weeks, like we're checking and say, hey guys, like we're just wasting away here. You know, what are we going to do? I don't know what happened at that time. I'm not sure exactly why there was such a prolonged period with no rangers to train us, or at least not enough.
Mhm.
Um, and so they ended up doing the MOS reassignment,
Oh.
and they did a skills test assessment, and they stuck me in the officers academy doing IT work, because I love technology and stuff like when
Yeah.
I was a kid, but I was so upset at the time. I was angry. I was like, man, I don't want to be doing this. This is computer stuff. This is terrible. And of course, that was a skill set that led to my career, and it changed, so many things for me. Looking back on it, as Steve Jobs says, look back and connect the dots.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was interesting, and so I think that for me, it didn't live up to what I thought it was going to be. But as I look back now as an adult, it was so valuable. And going back to your points and kind of tying this all back in, what it built inside of us is something I don't think you can really get anywhere else. Unless you throw yourself in there and you're David Goggins or whatever. But if you're not David Goggins, then you don't really get that much of any other places in the civilian world. So it definitely created a strong character in many people. And if you were able to make it through, it typically changes you for the better. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. You know, everything happens for a reason. And
That's right.
I believe that whatever happened has made me a better person today.
Yeah, fully agree. Well, now let's bring that back into collecting. You kind of mentioned it. So you had to leave, and you had to leave your Pokemon collection behind. I know you said you left it in a locker, and if I remember correctly, it was something along the lines of your mom and dad rented out the house. And so it was locked in the basement and broken into a few times, but luckily the cards were still intact. Is that right?
Yeah, the cards were still there. So my mom rented out the house, and only one section in the basement, the closet space, was locked, and you know they're not supposed to enter. But I think with 2 or 3 boys living inside the house, they're probably curious to see what was
the
in there.
Secret space, right?
Yeah, the secret space. I think all my Game Boys and games were gone, but like all my cards were still there. So I'm very thankful, for that. And I was able to retrieve it, and it brought back so much memories, and I enjoyed it so much. And then at the time, I was, also active on Facebook market groups where they had a bunch of Pokemon collectors trading. And so I was trying to get back to see, what's going on, is how valuable is my collection now compared to, 15 years ago. And I made a post with, pictures of my cards, and then somehow somebody reached out to me, said they were going to connect me to this guy from Pawn Star. So I'm like,
you're like, what?
Who is this Gary guy, right? And so I was like, okay, he seems like he's a dependable, reputable person. So we set up a Zoom meeting. So it was me and Gary, and Tuan was in the background. At the time I didn't know who they were, of course, but I just knew that they were reputable people that would take a look at my collection and maybe see if they were interested, or give me evaluation, or give me some guidance on what I should do. So when I went on the Zoom meeting with him and showed him my collection, he was like, wow, you have a really nice collection. And then he said something along the lines of, hey, you know what? You should keep those cards and continue collecting. And then I was like, well, I never thought that is a thing, like in today's society. It's like, are people really still collecting these things? And this was before pandemic and COVID. So like, I was still, it was around 2018 before the pandemic started. So I got connected to Gary, and he told me, maybe you should start thinking about just keeping your collection. I was like, okay, maybe I can do that. I can hang on to it. And during this period of time between 2018 and 2020, before the pandemic, I was just kind of sitting on my collection, and also buying and collecting a little here and there. And that's when Dragon Majesty and Celestial Storm came out. So I was able to, the Dragon set. Yeah. So I bought some Dragon Majesty seal products, and I kind of just kept it in the basement. And now over time, it obviously the value shot up, like around the pandemic time. And so that just, at that point, I realized, collecting seal product is a thing. So
accidentally.
I'm glad, accidentally. So I'm glad that I kept it sealed and I didn't open it, because I knew, like, I'm not going to pull anything good,
Right.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun just kind of sporadically opening products between 2018, 2019, and then 2020 is when the pandemic hit. in like around early 2020 March, and Logan Paul with the box breaks and everything started going crazy. And that's when I really started getting back into it. And I created an IG account at that time in 2020 and started sharing my collection. So that's when I started to develop a somewhat of a social media presence.
The presence, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And that helps me connect a couple of dots, because I was wondering when social media came in. I was wondering, what brought you back in. But there is one thing before we show a little bit of love to the chat. I want to just dig on connecting to Gary, because that's not a common thing. I don't think every person that was saying, hey, I'm going to sell my collection, somebody says, hey, let's go talk to Gary getting Pokemon.
Yeah,
Is it something you had in the collection that was drawing some big eyes as the people you were talking to? How did you connect to Gary at 2018?
So I had a bunch of base set Charizard hollows. So going back to when I was trading online, I was, always aiming for the top chase cards, the base set hollow Charizard, the shiny Muse. And so right off the bat, you just see like I had like 8 to 10 Charizards, Shadowless Charizards, and also
that's how you get Gary's attention.
Also I had quite a bit of like first edition, Blue Eyes White Dragon and stuff like that. So a lot of interesting things.
So you were aiming high early on. Kudos to you.
I was, just aiming for the Charizards. I don't know why, but like, I think, just from recalling from my memory, it's just, in the back of the school bus, everybody was, trying to pull that Charizard. And so I guess that got ingrained into me. It was like, okay, I think that's what I need to do to be successful.
I love it. All right. Well, before we continue, let me just give a quick love to the chat and just make sure we say hi to everybody's here. I saw SDC came in early. Always good to see SDC. We got Inept in the house. Thanks for sharing the link to Inept. FOMO's here. Quilly. We got KY. I heard Bierski properly pronounce that. I'm going to talk to him in the next coming week, and I'll get you back, KY. So we'll make sure I pronounce that properly. Navi Station's in the house. Poke Chef. Just kicking off dinner service. Got 200 tonight. Nice, man. All right, dude. Go kill it. We'll catch you later, buddy. Don't worry. Trainer Glenn's here. Good to see you, Trainer Glenn. Hodo Jake, Mrs. A. Appreciate you guys. We got Ricky in the house, Ricky Hernandez. Lots of love coming in. Everybody's happy to see you here, Lee.
Thank you.
Danzard's in the house. Yeah, I love it. Boondock-Gamez is here as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. So we'll go ahead and keep it rolling. So once you decided to get back in, you had some stuff stored away. We're jumping now into the pandemic. And one of the things I heard you say, I think it was with Alex, if I'm not mistaken, is that was also something for you to help cope as COVID was coming in, and you were kind of dealing with a lot of it, because you were in ICU at the time, right?
Yes. So
yeah,
working as a nurse, a bedside nurse for about 8 years in the ICU. And then I got my master's. So I, became a nurse practitioner in the ICU setting. And at that time I moved to Houston. So I'm working at this big medical center in Houston. As an ICU nurse practitioner. And nurse practitioner are basically master degree trained nurses with more responsibilities. So we can diagnose and treat and do procedures like the doctors. And so, we do like intubation, central line placement, arterial line placements, and, procedures like that. And it was definitely very stressful during that COVID times. Everybody was just, the fear of unknown, and just that alone, the unknown has made everybody kind of extra fearful of everything. But it was just hard and stressful time. And in the ICU there's always a lot of sick patients, so I see a lot of death, and I have to carry on a lot of end of life discussions with family members, and it's just
That's a lot.
very it's just it gets very dark, right? And so you know I would say Pokemon serves as a distraction for me to get away, and it is very therapeutic for me to just kind of think about the happy things I did as a kid, instead of thinking of all the death that's been happening in the ICU setting that I was working at.
And tell me if I'm misreading this, Lee, but I also see that same connection in what you kind of alluded to earlier. In that early day of school, maybe a little bit of bullying, it wasn't really diverse in your area, and Pokemon was a way for you to connect and enjoy. So that seems to be in different intersections of your life, a way for you to get back, bring the joy into what you do, connect to people who like the same things as you, and obviously make a few friends along the way. Would that be fair?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I enjoy, creating friendship, with people with like-minded people with common interests. It's just so much fun to talk about a light subject instead of always being,
Right.
in a dark place in
Right.
the ICU. But I think, I've actually made that change. I no longer work in the ICU, and
Oh, okay. What do you do now?
so I work in plastic surgery as
Okay.
outpatient nurse practitioner. So I see, all the patients that
Hmm.
that have already went through an operation,
Right.
and basically just taking care of post-operative management.
And that I would assume, and this is where you tell me if I'm missing the boat here, but I would assume that's a lot more positive, because whether that's, especially for plastic surgery, it's usually to fix or correct something, and or give somebody something they desire that they didn't have before. And so that's usually a positive outcome, even though they're not obviously where they want to be at that very moment. But it's always on the way up, and that conversation hopefully is always looking, to the bright side. Would that be
Right.
correct? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Good. Well, congrats on the job change. When did that happen?
2 years ago.
Oh, okay. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Yes, I've
Okay.
adapted, but
Okay.
it's a much better lifestyle, and
Hmm.
I have a better work-life balance, especially when I have a family and kids. It's just better,
Yeah.
not to have to work those intense hours of night and day rotation of 12
Yeah.
hour shift at a time.
My neighbor, his wife works at our local hospital, and she's been doing it her whole life. And she's often working nights, and so it's always a struggle. Like, she's coming home, we're going off to school. There's an event, and she can't make it because she has to go to work that night. So it's always a struggle. So I can definitely understand that point of view. And you miss so much. You miss so much if you're working those night shifts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also not good for your body physically to keep rotating
No.
from working nights
Mm-mm.
to days.
No, you're
And
not
your
meant to do that.
Yeah, and our shift never really ends at the 12th hour.
Mm.
Things always tend to go wrong at the end of our
Of
shift.
course.
Patients coding, and we're just,
Right.
running down the hallway with crash cart, doing CPR for 30 minutes, mass transfusion blood products, and still, at the end of the day, we couldn't save some of those patients, and that's how I had to end my day sometimes. And so
I couldn't imagine, and this is being very sincere. I've done many different things in my life, but I couldn't imagine that being like the last 30 minutes of my workday, and then trying to walk out the door and like go home and just act normal. And it's like, hey guys, let's have dinner. I don't know. I'd be very hard pressed to find that transition. So glad you changed jobs.
yeah, I think I did my time. I think
Yeah.
I got lots of good experiences, a lot of good exposure, and like a glimpse into some of the reality that people don't have to face every day. And I think I learned a lot from that, and so I'm very thankful for those experiences, and
Yeah.
definitely made me a stronger person.
Okay. As life does, right? If we didn't die from it, then it makes us stronger every time we go through it. That's right.
Exactly.
So, looking at the collection again, because we're going to tie it back, but I think these are appropriate segues into different journeys of your life as you still brought in Pokemon, as we mentioned earlier, to help you kind of cope, go back to enjoy, and just bring a little spark back to the life, because sometimes we do truly need that. You were collecting miscuts. You were grading your childhood collection. You started to get into signatures. So tell us, where are you at now? What are you focusing on? What are you doing with your collection?
Yeah, I'm surprised that you're keeping up with what I'm collecting. So yes, I do collect autographs. So I like to collect a little bit of everything. I like to have a pretty diverse collection.
Okay.
So yes, I do collect miscuts. I love airs. I just got my submission back for all my miscuts of over
Mm,
20 cards of different twisted miscuts from CGC and just super off-center
nice.
cards. And autographs has kind of taken a back seat because of all the recent controversy with people reselling autographs, and
Oh,
so artists are not doing a lot of signings this year. I
I
don't
see.
think I don't think I hear any recent like signing events where they do Pokemon cards, and it's if they do signings, it's mostly for non-Pokemon related items.
Okay.
So, but I was able to,
See.
get a good, yeah. So I was able to get a decent size autograph collection while I can last year. And then for Pokemon slabs, I've been just sort of I've been more into like sealed products. I've been collecting a lot more sealed
Oh,
as of
okay.
right now. All my slabs I just been keeping. I don't really sell slabs or anything, so I've been
Really?
just kind of keeping my slabs and then kind of optimizing it in a way. So some of my
Okay.
PSA 9 vintage slabs that I have kept for a while, I feel like they were graded harshly. So I
Okay.
have optimized it by sending them or resending them through CGC, and I have gotten better results with CGC. So it's
Okay.
just something for my collection, and I've been just kind of slowly going through my old collection and kind of optimizing those slabs.
How did you do on the miscuts? Did you do well?
The miscuts, because they're so off center, they never get the 10, right? So it's
Right.
usually around 8 or 9.
Okay. But did you get what you expected kind of from that whole submission?
Yeah, I kind of
Okay.
figured. Yeah, I
Okay.
figured they were gonna be labeled correctly, and CGC is really good with grading miscuts and error cards. So I think that's the company I would go with if
Okay.
you want to grade error cards.
Wow. Okay. And we're going to touch on that just in a second, but I want to highlight this from STC. He says a question from the chat. When are you coming to Hawaii?
Oh, I think I do. I have heard that Arita is doing some signings at
Right.
Hawaii.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
He says here in the next one, Arita just signed for 2 weeks. He
yeah.
says,
I
but it
think
was $700 though for 16 minutes.
what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
huge price increase.
What was it historically? Because I've never been to
It's
one.
like 200, 250-ish for
Wow.
an autograph.
700. I hear. Okay. All right.
Big increase.
So you mentioned that you've been optimizing and going to CGC, and I know we'll get to this topic of your podcast with Jesse here in just a little bit. But I know that Jesse favors a good deal on tag side. He loves the technology, challenging the status quo, and I can definitely agree with that perspective. Um, are you choosing PSA as your primary source and only going to CGC when you feel like there wasn't a fair evaluation? Or do you have other grading companies that you prefer for different reasons?
Well, PSA has the best resale value, and
Yeah.
CGC is more lenient on vintage
Mm,
vintage
mm,
Pokemon cards. I feel like PSA is very inconsistent with grading, especially recently. I think, all the vintage cards they've been grading harshly, and I think, other people would agree from the people that I've been following. So Tag is a AI grading, machine learning grading company that is a newer concept, much similar to AGS. But my understanding is that AGS rented their technology, so they don't have any real patents.
No
Where
IP. Yeah.
Yeah, where Tag grading has their own patents, and I think their slabs looks great.
They do look good. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I haven't had the chance to really explore Tag, but I am
Okay.
submitting some cards to Tag
Okay.
to kind of get an idea and sense. So I'll let you know what I think once I get
Yeah.
those submissions back. But I think, PSA and CGC are my top two go-to. PSA with
Okay.
good resale value, CGC is just more lenient on vintage. And so I just been going with those two.
I'll share my thoughts in a minute. I always like to hear the other perspectives before
Yeah.
I color the conversation with my own ideas. Did you have hesitation with Tag for a reason, and what did you choose that you're going to send to them?
So, my hesitation would just be the resale value, right? Like, I want my
Okay.
cards to
Okay.
have that value,
Hmm.
and liquidity if I were to resell it
Right.
down the line. And I'm still seeing kind of, what Tag is doing, so I'm just kind of taking a back seat and waiting to see what are the most recent solds for Tag. But yeah, I'm just kind of waiting to see what's happening. I'm kind of just observing right now.
Yeah, I'm doing the same, and I observe many details. And one of the things that I hesitate on, one, they have a huge potential, huge opportunity, huge potential. And as Jesse rightfully said, as long as they're improving it and they're correcting it, and they're trying to grow from that, that's a good thing. So okay, we can allow for some mistakes because obviously we all make mistakes along the way.
Exactly.
But how harsh they are, or at least they were, in some areas, maybe not some others, but in some areas, I would really have to be almost black label ready in terms of my pre-grading before I send them to Tag.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're going to be looking at things we can't even see with the human eye. And so it's
Exactly.
like, yeah, the amount of pre-grading would be through the roof. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'll have to see what the returns are and see if it exceeds my expectation. But I think AI grading or machine grading is good for the market, and it's good for the competition. I think maybe PSA adapted the graders notes because of Tag's
Mm-hmm.
constant advertisement of
Yeah.
transparency. Maybe that drove PSA to do better. Hopefully, is kind of the idea.
Right.
um so we'll see how that goes. The graders notes is not even like out, so I'm not sure how people are perceiving it as of yet.
Yeah. I've heard rumors that it's not nearly as detailed as it should be, right? But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
But we'll let it hit the market. But yeah, I fully agree, and I think in large part, the agreement for me is in the area of competition. We need healthy competition to drive the market forward, and just in any economy, any business, any industry, that's just something you really want. So as long as we have those competitors that are pushing the edge, and maybe one day, a true competitor, but for right now, they have a long ways to go. So we'll wait and see. Yeah.
Yes, wait and see.
All right. Um, One of the things I've noticed with at least my observations, and I say this a few times in our conversation already, and I'll say it again. So please correct me anywhere that I've misunderstood or misrepresented. As I look at your collection, you've definitely evolved your identity within the collection and what you do over time, as you move through it, as anybody does, right? As you go through it, you're changing your, I would say, your likes, your dislikes, what you want to shoot for next. Maybe you achieved a goal. how has your collection identity really shifted over the past couple of years? Because I think you've really, year over year, you've gotten more and more into the hobby, at least from my point of view.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I feel like I'm just getting sucked in, into the hobby. But yeah,
This
I
podcast is not helping.
no. Yeah, well, I am certainly trying to downsize my collection to just collect more high-end slabs. So,
Okay.
ideally, I want to upgrade my first edition, like BGS 9 Charizard down, to a 10
Okay.
somewhere down the road. So I'm just, currently I'm trying to optimize my own collection to eventually either trade or sell later down the road in order to obtain my ultimate goal of getting a Charizard graded in a 10.
Okay. All right. Are you looking for the black label?
Oh no, no, I'm
No.
not that. No, no. But
Okay.
I think, just trying to downsize and optimize in preparation for my ultimate goal.
Have you reached the point? You said it earlier. You don't really sell too much, but
Yeah.
are you starting to reach the point where you feel like you need to start selling off some things to fund the next? Because if you're moving into tens and Charizards, like it's a huge price disparity between the two.
Yeah.
Are you getting close to that point? Of, you know what? I got to start selling some things.
Yeah, I've been telling that to myself every day that I need to, maybe start selling. What am I doing over here? I'm just like
Right.
racking up all these
Yeah.
things that I feel like I could just sell them off at the peak, especially like more of your modern, like
Right.
alt art
Yeah.
slabs. I mean, I have a lot, but I've been just keeping them. I'm like a hoarder. Like I like to hoard things and not let. I have a problem with letting go, and I need to let them go.
I understand. Yeah, that's what I talked to Ivy about as well. When we talked about her moving from being a collector and then opening her store, and she
Yeah.
talked a lot about letting go. And she said it was really hard at first,
Oh, so
but
hard.
it was what she had to do to keep the store afloat. And after that, it changed for her, and she collects a few things, but it definitely changes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just have a problem of letting things go. And I think I need to be better about that, especially with my like childhood collection that I
Mm-hmm.
graded. It's just extra hard for me, but I think eventually when I get all my things organized and when I have more time, I'm just so busy right now. I work a full-time job. I'm also a
Yeah.
mom, and I
Yeah.
also am like a brand ambassador for Slab Mags, and I'm trying to do this podcast. So it's just a lot of things, and I will eventually need to prioritize, obtaining my collection goal. But right now, it's sort of on the bottom of the list because
I
I
know.
have like my podcast, and I want to make sure that I do the brand that I represent, justice. So I'm
Yep.
still kind of, slowly working my way up to obtain that goal.
We'll speak to this in just a minute, but yeah, the balance of life and the demands that it throws on us is so difficult.
Oh, I know.
So difficult.
Yes.
Yeah, some days I don't know how we make it through. Like I end the day,
I don't
I saw
know.
like a funny reel on Instagram one day. Like, yeah, I forget what the actor was, but like his hair was exploded, like half of his clothes were just burned off, and it says parents after like a full day of managing the kids, and you're just kind of like walking around, it's like just fall down. It's just how I feel some days. It's
I
rough.
feel like that
It's rough.
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
So we want to get back a little bit to what you were doing in terms of your career. And I do want to actually, I meant to ask earlier, why did you choose National Guard versus something else? What was the reason you went into the National Guard?
I think one of the reason I went to National Guard is because it's like much like Army Reserve, where you go to your military obligation 1 weekend per month,
Mm-hmm.
and you can still, go to school without delaying that. And
I
so
see.
I wanted to make sure that because I want that independent uh, and the ability to fend for myself, and I wanted to obtain a college degree. I didn't want to get stuck necessarily getting deployed
Right.
years after year without obtaining a college degree.
Having to do that
So,
afterwards. Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I really wanted just to get that out of the way first. And so I thought, National Guard is probably the best way for me to go about it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's a smart move. I did the opposite. I went in, did my time, and then did my degree when I got out. So it was a lot harder. It was a lot harder. And I was older. I was like, yeah, I should have done this a little sooner. But yeah, I understand. Okay. But then if we fast forward a little bit, now I kind of have this in my mind under the area of business and career, but it's really still a hobby for you, I think. You also did spend some time in Whatnot. And that was an area where you were box breaking. It was pretty big for you. What
Yeah.
made you move into that? What was because you didn't really do any box breaks prior to that, did you?
Yes. So I got into Whatnot around December 2020. So when Whatnot first started, when they still had, like where you had to schedule your live shows on a calendar, a separate calendar app. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all the streamers had one time slot, and there's no simultaneous streamers going at the same time, right? So it's only like one person at a time. And knowing that concept, I was very intrigued, and at that time it was really popular. And there's tons of streamers like Super Duper Danny and all those
Yep.
people that I watch constantly, that they were, also doing Whatnot box breaks. And I thought, why not try it out myself? So
Hmm.
sort of that's how I got in. And because I was one of the first few, it was easier to get in.
Okay.
And I had references from selling on Macari. So they check your
Okay.
references and you do
Hmm.
a phone interview. So I talked to the founder of Whatnot at the time, and they were still very small and it was very early
Mm-hmm.
on. So I was able to, get in after the phone interview with some references from my Macari shop at the time. And I was on board ever since. It was so much fun to stream online.
It was Josh was there at the same time too. Old Card Shop,
He was one of the first.
Super Duper Danny, you. Um, but I mean, going back to your previous, statements to us, getting out there and kind of exposing yourself is it's a challenge for us, especially as introverts. That is, uh,
Yes.
I mean, you had to be. That was a huge jump. Let's put it that way. It was a huge jump to go from not really doing much, maybe a few IG posts, to now I'm going to be live on Whatnot. I mean,
Yeah, it was very nerve-wracking for sure. It was my,
yeah,
first time doing live streams. It's always very nerve-wracking, right? Because
it is.
as
Yeah.
like you said, we're introverts, and it takes more energy for me to, put
Mm-hmm.
myself out there. But after I was pulling cards and for customers at the time, we were pulling like, all those top chase cards. They
Yeah.
were super happy, and the chat was, always super supportive, and it was just, a nice energy to it,
Right.
and it
Yeah.
was super positive, and I really enjoy breaking for people and pulling hits for others. And so it was a,
Mm-hmm.
big win for me. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
I think I saw when you pulled the first edition Dark Charizard. I was like, wow.
Yeah, that's when I
That
had
was really cool.
the first edition Team Rocket booster box break.
Yeah, that was huge. That was huge. I was like, wow, that's a big card. You're like, oh, here it is. You were
Yeah,
surprised. Yeah.
I was for sure super nervous going
Yeah.
into that break, but it was a lot of fun nonetheless.
Would you now consider getting back into breaks again? We got eBay Lives really spinning up. Is your I know we just spoke about how much time you don't have, but
Right.
are
Yeah.
are, are you thinking
That's a
about it?
problem. I don't have the time, and so I don't think I can do
Okay.
any box breaks. But that was so much fun when I did it. But I think right now I just don't have the time to do it. Is
Yeah.
mostly the problem. Is the
Yeah.
time.
It's very consuming, and this is where when I talked to shout out to Rob at Red or Blue. I talked to Rob, and he does it multiple times a week. Jay's Corner TCG as well. I mean, they're going heavy, and take
Yeah.
even old school Pokemon. Nick going on eBay Lives. I mean, these guys are doing it, and there's just so much in preparation. There's so much in sourcing. There's so much in shipping. There's just a lot that goes behind the scenes that
Oh yeah.
when you're there on the stream, it's great. You have fun, and if you're just a guest, you turn it off and you go to bed or whatever, go eat. But for the people that are hosting it and managing it, it's a huge undertaking, and that's why
Yeah.
it's been hard for me to even ramp up more than just once a month for now. In addition to everything else, it's like if I'm doing 2 or 3 of these a month, it's going to take a lot of time. It's not like, oh, it's just the 2 or 3 hours that we're together. So no, it's like times 10, before, after, and during. So
Yeah, you have to put a lot of energy behind your, you don't want to be like talking monotone. You have to,
right.
bring your best and
Exactly.
and provide some sort of entertainment for
That's right.
your viewers.
And that's why we look at people like Rev. Even I still to this day, I love to watch Rev open up a vintage box. Just his energy, the vibe, it's still fun for me to watch. I don't care how many times I've seen whatever box being opened. It's still fun to watch Rev open that box. And there's a lot that goes with the person behind it as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of high energy people in this PokeTuber space, like Pika Pika Papa, right? Or
yeah. Oh, he's
Alex.
got high energy. Yeah.
They're super high energy, and I'm just like, it's so low energy.
Yeah.
So my energy wave frequency is so much lower than theirs. And I'm just watching them. I was like, wow, I need to be on whatever they are on, or eating or drinking. Give me some of those.
I know, right? As long as it's legal, let's talk about it. But no, I mean that's a great point too, because Ryan Pika Pika Papa, he is one of the highest energy guys. He talks so fast, and I just enjoyed speaking with him so much. He's so sincere. But I did feel like he got to slow down for just a minute in that podcast and breathe a little bit and just have a good time, and he didn't have to spit it out and get the video out in 10 minutes. It was just to sit back and relax. So I got to see a little bit of his other side, but he is super high energy. I can tell he's just that kind of guy.
Yeah. I definitely need some of his energy. Pull it over to me.
some caffeine shots there.
Yeah.
So moving this a little bit, we went from National Guard. We obviously talked about your ICU experience, a little bit of whatnot, but then you've partnered, and you mentioned it here already today, but you partner now with Slab Mags. What brought that about? And I was actually even curious, do you have an ownership with them, or did you help start the company, or you just kind of came in after the fact and you're just kind of a key sponsor?
Yeah, so I became a brand ambassador first. So I tried many, slab protector products on the market, and when I tried Slab Mags, I really enjoyed it. And after that, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to be like a brand ambassador?" I was like, "Sure, let's become affiliates." So I was representing them because I myself really enjoy the product and I really believe in the product. So I started representing them, and they also do a lot of kids giveaway, and I was able to represent them at LA Collecticon and Car Party to give away Slab Mags to the kids. So for LA Collecticon, I got in contact with Gary and Jason Page. So I asked them to help me do the kids giveaway because I'm actually not physically there. So I asked them to kind of represent me in a way. And who doesn't want to help out kids, right? They are our next generation, and I think it's great that a company like Slab Mags is always promoting giving away these products to kids instead of other influencers. So I really like that aspect about the company. And so slowly I started became like more involved, and I invested into the company.
Okay. Okay. It's been a really interesting product, and I must say, I love how you showcase it. Some of your IG videos in that space of showcasing Slab Mags is really cool. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But it's quite unique. And for anybody who maybe doesn't know, what's the prop sell over anything else? Why Slab Mags? I know that there's a UV protection. I think the outer case is alloy, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It can hold packs, graded cards. I love the graphical overlay. So like you can
Yes.
like add in that little
Yeah.
template, and then you add in the card, and it kind of continues the artwork outside of the slab.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Exactly. Let me see if I can find. So, like for example, the Scaratina with extended artwork. So basically, it just covers the entire case, and so it's just really interesting to have as a display piece. It looks beautiful. It kind of gives you that extra oomph to this display
I like
piece.
it. Did I miss any of the key points in terms of the selling points?
No, I think you did great, because UV protection, front
That's a
UV
huge one.
protection is
And back.
is the most important thing that they advertise, and they want to continue to educate the TCG market about how it is a little bit different than other product that's on the market. Is that with Slab Mags, front UV protection is very useful, especially when I have autograph cards like this, like Dragon
Right.
or I have tons of other autographs that I also have, like this Charizard with Arita, and then this Shadowless Charizard with Arita
I love it.
autos. I just make sure that they're all protected, and so they don't fade over time.
Yeah. Are they stackable? So I was curious. Like, do they have like a ridge so they can be stacked and
Yeah, they're stackable. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Thinking about this, I was watching, and by the way, I see Brian join the chat as well. Good to see you, Brian. Thanks for stopping by, my friend.
Yes.
Hope all is well.
You.
Yeah, I'm way too introverted.
Gray hair.
Regular bucks.
Best hair in the Pokemon community.
Yeah, I fully agree, Ryan. Brian. It's really exhausting to do the events, and it's hard for me. But again, as I said to Lee before we started, like I can do it when I'm there. I can make it all work and have a great time. But it's hard for me to get into it, and when I'm finished, I'm drained. Like I'm done for the day. So yeah, fully understand. And I also saw retrospects. Good to see Retro. Yeah, speaking of, he's saying I just caught up on the Poke SMP podcast yesterday. I did too.
Thank you.
And I love it. You guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. Can't wait to see more from that. How did that come about? Share the story. Where did you and Jesse connect? And he said, hey, let's start a podcast.
Yeah. So, we met 4 years ago. Like end of 2020, beginning of 2021, somewhere in between that time period.
Okay.
There was a private event hosted by Gary King Pokemon and Steve Aoki. It's called Pokemon Saves the World.
Oh yeah,
and
I've heard of that. Yeah.
We all went to that event, and that's how I met up with CJ, Jesse's wife, who now owns Ven City Poke Store in Vancouver. And so we met up and talked. There was a lot of content creators that showed up at that event. So I met Dan from Catch 'em All Collectibles. I think a lot of those people don't know who I am, so it might sound like a little creepy. Oh, I know you. So there was ZNG Emporium was there.
Yeah, James. Yeah.
Basically, Radar.
John
Diego Trading and Bow Danger. A lot of Pokejewel and Nashavim. So basically, we all kind of met up, and that was when I really started to get to know the people within the community, and that's how I got connected with Jesse. But at that time, we didn't really have any idea of making like Pokemon content. It's like, what is that? That's not for us, right? And
Right.
then fast forward to just 2 months ago, when we reconnected. We were on a WeChat group, which is a Chinese Pokemon
Yeah.
collecting community. And I made some posts, and I was just talking to like the Chinese collectors in the community to get an understanding of what's going on in their mind frame and what's going on at the current market. Because at that time, there was a huge influx of buyers from
Right.
the Chinese market, and they were all buying up all the Japanese waifus and Japanese cards. They were like heavily invested into these Japanese cards, and so I was just trying to kind of poke around and see what's going on.
What did you find
And
out, by the way?
well, yeah, I mean there's a lot of big buyers. There's
Uh,
a lot of money in the
mhm.
Chinese market, and so right now, I think things are kind of slowed down, obviously, but
Right.
a lot of big buyers in that market. And Jesse was also in that group, and he saw one of my posts. He was like, "Hey, I didn't know you were like Chinese." I'm like, "Yeah, I am." So then we got reconnected, and he was like, "Yeah, I watch some of the reels you made on Instagram." And over time, he started his own Instagram and was watching like a lot of YouTubers like PokeSunTCG. Like
Yeah.
he's like Jesse is like one of your biggest fan, by the way.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and Pokey Annie here, he gives it right back to you. So he does. You got a new sub from him as well. So awesome, sharing the
yeah,
love.
yeah. So he's a big fan, and he was watching some other YouTubers that he didn't necessarily agree with. So he
Mm,
wanted to create his own channel, but also invited me to join. And at that time, I was like, "Oh no, I don't think I can do this." But in my
no
head, I'm just
thanks.
like, I guess I can." Okay, I eventually said yes, but it was through a lot of internalization of, "Oh, should I do this? Should I not?" But I eventually
Hmm.
came to the conclusions like, "Okay, I need to get over this fear and of not wanting to do things. I need to get started at some point.
Right.
Might as well start with someone I know." So we teamed up and we started Pokey SMP podcast, and it's basically centralized around stories that we have to share, investment tips, mostly coming from Jesse because he is well versed in this area, and I'm more like a market observer. I like to observe the market, and I do like to make informative reels and post on my Instagram.
Right.
So basically, we just teamed up and we started the podcast. And I think we are 5 episodes in, and we started 2 months ago. Basically, just to stay informative and give people another podcast to watch.
Yeah. And I must say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I can see the progression and the growth already just in the 5 episodes you guys have done. So kudos, good job, keep it up. That's both to
Thank
you
you.
and Jesse. One of the things that's interesting here is, again, let's go behind the scenes because this is what people don't get to see. They don't get to understand what's there. What goes into putting together an episode for you and Jesse? Give us like a behind the scenes. How much time are you prepping? Discussions, notes, sharing.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of that. Yeah.
So we, hop on a phone call and we have like maybe a 30-minute, 45-minute discussion of what we want to talk about. And then we just kind of go right into it because it is
Mm,
pre-recorded. I can
yeah.
post production, I can edit whatever and chop out whatever is not necessary. So I've been doing majority of the editing. I'm more on the editing, the technical side, right? Because I'm better with IT related stuff, and he's more
Okay.
like the mastermind, if you will.
He's in the market, in
Behind
the finances, real estate.
exactly.
Yeah. That's his
Yeah.
space. Yeah.
Yes. So that's why we, are able to work together as a team. And so I do majority of the overlays, the sound effects, the editing, which takes so much time.
We're gonna talk
And
about that.
so much time. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you have to edit so much. In post production, I mean, I don't think people realize how much time it takes, how much time and effort it takes to edit a video,
Hmm.
a reel, just in
Yep.
general, and
Yep.
then making like short reels of your long form content. Squeeze down, couple segments here and there that might be relevant to your
Hmm.
audience and to get the hook down.
No, Navi Station says nobody likes editing.
Editing is the
It's
worst. Oh my
rough.
gosh.
I've said it before, and I'll stand by my statement. It's very satisfying. It's like cutting the grass. Like you get to see the results like immediately, right? So you put your effort in, you see it, and when you're happy with that, it feels good. So there is a nice, and for me, I like the details, the splicing, the moving the audio around. Like it's enjoyable for me. But
Yeah.
after so long, like it's very tedious. So you just want to be done with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do it on my phone, so I'm like, oh my gosh,
Oh yeah.
I have to keep
You're like,
yeah, with my little finger.
yeah.
But no, I really do enjoy it at the end of the day because I'm excited to see how it turns out because I know
Hmm.
it's going to be informative.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a sense of purpose of doing all of that because it's going to provide some valuable information for the viewers or the audience. So I really want to do my best to make the podcast good and informative and visually somewhat pleasing for people to watch. And I really appreciate those who take the time out of their
Right.
day to listen or watch because we do spend quite a bit of time on it.
Do you then after you've edited, do you both watch it? Do you approve it? Do you have a back and forth? Is there like a approval process?
He just kind of trusts me whatever I edit or edit
Okay.
out. Um, yeah, well, the first time, he was like, "Oh, maybe we should do this and that," and so I kind of understood, you
What he
know,
was looking for. Yeah.
yeah, and
Okay.
in that sense, we mesh well. And I have some experience with editing in the past. So it was fairly easy for me to make those adjustments quickly.
Okay. Um, are you enjoying it?
Yes.
All right.
It brings me a lot of joy to be able to bring something to the viewers or my followers, something that kind of represents, how I
Mhm.
feel, where people can see my reactions to certain subjects or certain market trends. It's just nice to put a face to my page as well.
Have you learned anything valuable? I know you're early in, so you may say, Justin, it's too early. But do you have any like, you know what? I didn't realize this, or we've done these, and after doing this, I realized these X, Y, and Z that I didn't quite catch before. Does anything stand out to you as a lessons learned and new
I
observations?
I think it's just, the matter of constantly trying to make some improvements
Mm,
after each episode,
1%.
do
Yeah.
do a little bit something different
Yep.
and to continue to try to improve it. I think long form content is just so hard for everyone to digest. So we're trying to shorten it. We're trying to be more efficient. It's just,
Mm.
always turns out to be longer than we expected, and we're trying to make it more timely and shorten it to where people can watch it
Hmm.
in a digestible way.
Yep. Yeah, I would definitely concur that long form content has a specific audience. and even PK talks about this a lot. It's we're not ever going to be that million sub channel. Not that that's even our goal, but like if you're running a 3-hour podcast, it's just there's not going to be a million people willing to spend the 3 hours watching a Pokemon specific 3-hour podcast, right? So yeah, keeping it digestible is good. And I think even here, Brian mentions, look at the CapCut. He uses that a lot. He definitely recommended them when he was doing his video editing on his phone. But also Opus Pro, if you want to get some good clips from your podcast. It does a pretty good job. It's getting better and better. Again, AI based, and you basically just give it a link. It cuts them all up, does all the transcripts for you, so it helps a lot. And so,
I've tried that Opus, and I use CapCut for all my editing, and I love CapCut. So
okay,
easiest
you're right there.
way to edit video.
yeah, good stuff. And I will say I was quite surprised because in the beginning for me, I was just doing like very basic, opening some stuff, doing some product reviews, but I was doing a lot of video editing in the beginning because it was all pre-recorded. And as I started these podcasts, for example, or doing live box breaks, I thought, well, I can't really edit these the same way. Are people going to like it the same? Is it going to be as enjoyable? And what I realized is nobody really cared. all that editing, all the sounds, and the synchronization. Yeah, there was a couple of comments here and there, but nobody really cared. And it was the same. And people who were there are still here now for the most part. And all that editing, I thought, well, what did I do all that for?
Sometimes that's hard. I think I try to edit as much as possible, and then at the end of the day, I was like, I can add more to it here and there, but then I was like, that's gonna delay the post date, like the release date of the podcast, and so I think it's just important to just put your video out there, opposed to perfecting it.
Right. Yeah. There's a balance
down to the detail. Yeah.
Have you guys thought about doing lives?
No, we have not. The live is totally different because you have to, you have an audience and viewers to interact with. So I don't know how do you feel about live versus recorded? Because obviously pre-recorded videos you can edit if you mess up, but with live you cannot go back.
Well, it's funny. There's a misconception there. And so, yes, the people watching at this very moment, if we make a mistake, they'll see it. But once it's posted and processed, you can go back and modify it in YouTube. So you can splice it out and say, okay, hey, I said something stupid or silly. I can just take out that little splice and it'll process within, a few seconds, and then you're fine. So anybody who watches after the fact, then you won't see it. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say that at all. But it is a different monster. And speaking live is definitely interesting, which it has its pros and cons. I do like for example, what Radar does, and I said the same thing to Radar. If you pre-record, there's a lot more ability to market and get some hype to that interview or to that podcast prior to launch. So you can do a couple of clips, kind of give a couple of teasers, and get people excited to see it. Whereas with this, like, I can do that after the fact, but probably by the time I do that, whatever, 50-60% of the people who are going to watch it probably already have. So definitely there's a trade-off with some of that. So,
yeah, definitely. I think both have their pros and cons, just like anything else. And I think it's pretty entertaining to do live podcasts or live discussions because you can interact immediately with your viewers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Brian here says, speaking of, Opus is pretty solid. It's getting better. I use it for every interview I've been in. Yeah. I've noticed that, Brian. You've been doing that a lot lately with the other ones you've been jumping into. So it's good stuff. I mean, it's cheap, but it's not that expensive. I forget the exact price, but it definitely has gotten a lot better, and I think they're only going to keep moving up and up. So
yeah, I think I saw like Dan Ketchumalt Collectibles using Opus, or it looks like an Opus clip.
Yeah, I think Brian turned him onto it actually when he was on the PokeFlips podcast. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good usage.
All right. Have a good gym workout there, Brian. No
Yes.
worries. We'll catch you on the next one, buddy. Don't skip
Thank
leg
you.
day, buddy. Don't skip leg day. We got Crystal in the house. Good to see you, Crystal. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Crystal's making some beautiful crochet Pokemon, handmade, that
Oh
she's going to
wow.
bring to the Charlotte Collecticon for the kids. So
That's
super excited.
awesome.
She's been posting some pictures in IG, kind of showing us the progress. So excited to see
I would
those.
love
So.
to see some. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. When I get them in hand, I'll kind of give them all set up. And I'll do a couple of different posts. But yeah, thank you, Crystal. Good to see you, dear.
Good to see you.
So before we finish off, so we jumped over to the podcast a little bit. That obviously as a new introduction to your already busy day and moving through that. But one of the things I picked up on, actually in the podcast with Chloe and CJ, two females that have opened up a store in their respective areas, UK and Canada. I kind of got a hint that you like that idea. Do you have a bug that you say maybe one day I want to open my store?
That would be phenomenal if I can open my own store, and that would be my full-time job. That would be so much fun, and I would have so many different ideas. But because I have 3 young kids as of right now, I don't think that's practical at the moment. But I think later down the road, I do
You could do
want
that.
to own a shop. That would be a dream.
Yeah. I saw the bug in your eye as they were talking. I was looking at you. I said, "Yeah, I think that's something she likes too." Yeah.
For sure. Who wouldn't want to be their own boss? I mean, all my life, I feel like I've been working for, the hospital for someone else, basically. And it would be nice to be my own boss one of these days.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tell you, people like Chloe, like CJ, Ivy, for example, they're killing it. They're doing a great job, and I'm so happy for their success and how well they're moving through it. For example, if Mason watches this back, Mason spoke about the struggles and how difficult it was, and I don't know if he would agree, but it seems as if from the outside looking in, some times are starting to shift. Yeah, there's still difficult times. There's still distributor issues. There's still margin issues. But it seems to be, especially with Lorcana and some other things happening, a little bit better, especially even here with my local LGS. Things are doing better. It's not quite as stale and I would say slow as it maybe once was in the past. So I hope it stays that way for them.
Yeah, owning a brick and mortar is just so hard because I know there's a lot of ups and downs. You have employees to worry about, and there's been like thefts.
Oh yeah, that's been a lot lately. Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like how would you go about someone bringing a weapon to your shop? Like you just let them take everything, obviously, if they have a weapon or they're threatening. It just it's just really hard to kind of navigate that type of scenario. Like what would you do in that situation? It must be really hard for people to lose their
I mean,
inventory.
it could shut you down. It could totally stop the entire business, and
Exactly.
for some, it could be the end.
Yeah.
Nothing I wish on anybody by any means.
Right.
Yeah. Lee, I'm thinking about this, and you have an interesting view, especially here as of late. You're tapping more into this market, even just for the podcast, and so you're building your content around it. You're looking at it with a different lens, not just the collector, not just the investor, not just the whatever you may be doing. What is your thoughts now on where we stand in the Pokemon market? How do you see it? Is it healthy? Is it still growing? Are we now stagnant? What's your overall consensus on where we sit today?
I think the overall Pokemon market is pretty healthy. I mean, Twilight Masquerade is selling out. It's one of the best seller in Scarlet and Violet, and people are also getting hyped up for the upcoming Dragon set and Team Rocket set. So I think it's heading towards a really good direction where there's going to be a lot of hype and bringing people back in with the Team Rocket set. And I think Seal product is still holding on strong. I think overall, I think it's a great time to invest in Seal product or Japanese products because they are, being reprinted, and so the prices are a lot lower than they used to be couple at least six to 7 months ago.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty big drops. And again, I always try to shout it out when it's the appropriate time. If anybody's looking for some good Japanese products in mass, reach out to Retrospecs. He was here in the chat a little bit earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here, but Navi or Ryan, if you guys want to drop a link for Retrospecs, he's been killing that Japanese sealed mass buying, bulk and market. So if you're looking for that, definitely it's a space to be in. Is that something you're moving into yourself? Are you shifting from English to Japanese? Because you mentioned sealed earlier, but you didn't mention what. So is that what you're moving into versus out of English?
Yeah, so for Japanese sealed is a really good opportunity to get in while the prices are low. I think it's just a good entry point for Shiny Treasure or Japanese 151. I think those two are the top two sets that I've been personally going heavy in on.
Okay.
And so I believe that if you are buying the boxes at a good price point, so I'm getting 151s around $50 per box, and for Shiny Treasure, I've been getting them around $28 a box. So I think those are good entry points.
Wow, that's great.
For me to hold on to long term, because I think those sets will do very well long term.
Are you also getting into V-Star Universe at all?
I do have some, but right now I would rather put that money into Shiny Treasure. So if I were to get a V-Star Universe, that's like $70 a box right now. I could get
it's higher than I thought. Okay.
I could get, two or three Shiny Treasures.
Okay.
Instead.
I would agree. Yeah. I didn't realize it was still so high. I thought it dropped down as well. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't buy much Japanese at this point in time, but yeah, I do enjoy it. My first exposure into the Japanese kind of box opening was V-Star Universe, and man, that was a fun set to open.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just recently opened up a Japanese 151 box and pulled like a God pack from.
I saw that on IG. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was like the first Japanese 151 box I opened.
Wow.
It just made sense for me to open a box when it's at like such a low price point. Whereas comparatively, like a while back, it was $100 and $120. I just decided to keep those sealed. Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Okay. I know you've also, while we're on the topic of a sealed collection, you've actually got a pretty good English seal, or at least you did, English sealed collection. What does that look like for you today? You still have that? And is it complete? You still growing it, picking up a little something here and there?
For my seal collection, well, I had a sealed first edition Team Rocket box that I opened, and first
that
edition,
was yours.
Yeah, that was mine.
Okay.
And then the first edition Jungle Booster box I also opened. Luckily, I opened those during like the peak, right? So I did box breaks for those. And that was just a lot of fun. Instead of just sitting in the closet, not seeing the daylight, I decided to open and see what's inside. It was a lot of fun to open them. But now I'm keeping more things sealed. So for my Sword and Shields, I've been putting them away. Like I have maybe 3 cases of Evolving Skies that I've been kind of keeping away. And I have 1 to 2 cases of other Sword and Shield products like Silver Tempest, Lost Origin. I've been just kind of storing them away and keeping them in the closet and see what they do for me in the long term.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I didn't realize, and I was speaking to exactly the boxes you mentioned at the beginning. I thought that you still had those. I didn't realize when you opened those and whatnot, that was actually your boxes.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay. Do
yeah.
you wish you
I
still had them?
um yes and no.
Okay.
It's just I think it's fun to have that experience with people who really enjoy the opening experience. I
Mm.
think it creates more like a fun energy when I open it with everybody else
Yeah.
instead of just opening it by myself.
Okay. Yeah, I fully agree with that. Yeah, opening by yourself is not the same thing. Even
Yeah,
if it's for you, but you open it with the community, it's still better than just sitting there ripping by yourself. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
it's actually one of the things that Felipe de Sosa just spoke about. Like he never opens a single pack by himself, ever, and so he either opens it with his son or he's buying into a box break, with Rob or me or somebody else, and that's just how he enjoys the hobby because it's more fun for him. He says, I just don't have fun, opening it by myself. So I can
yeah,
understand.
yeah. I think that's why live pack breaking is
That's
so
such a big
big
thing. Yeah.
with Fanatics Live and Drip Shop
Yep. Yep.
and all those different platforms. I know there's tons, but Whatnot, it's just so big with live pack breaks, and it's just a lot of fun when you have so many people involved. They can just hype it up, and the energy is just through the roof, and that's just a lot more fun than opening alone.
You know, it brings up an interesting question because I've never had the exposure or experience to compare the two and contrast them. What's it like? Because you were at Car Party, and I think you were also doing something similar when you were opening for the charity event. Um, what's it like opening with a group of people in the room versus online?
Well, online, it's just me, so I sort of have to read the chat, and you have to
Hmm.
kind of read the chat to feel the energy or the hype, right? But in person, when you are opening booster boxes, it's just
Hmm.
you feel it instantly. It really liven things up even more.
That's interesting. I'm surprised we haven't picked up more on live breaks, but in person. It seems like that would be a great event. So, hey, you go to play a Pokemon League, you go and play a game, but then there's also a place that you go to and you do a live break and you sit down and everybody just has a good time. And that
Yeah, so like at Car
surprise.
Party, I think they were doing a lot of live pack openings. Like Poke Chloe was opening
It's like
Aquapolis.
Skyridge or Aquapolis. Yeah,
Yeah,
or something like, yeah, yeah.
yeah, something like that. And people were walking by and they were all like looking over her shoulder, and I mean, I would imagine it was a lot of fun. It creates a fun atmosphere for everyone to watch.
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting business model. Say, hey, let's doing it on. Obviously it limits your audience. I get that part, but it would be interesting. Maybe even to do both. Like you have an audience video, and so you get to see people in the room, and then you also get to have the online. You kind of mix the two
Yeah,
worlds together.
yeah, that would
That'd
be
be cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, business ideas flowing here.
fun.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Um, moving a little bit though back into content creation. You originally started your Instagram journey just to kind of capture your collection and what you were doing and as you were growing. Um, I also saw that you had a YouTube channel. You only had a couple of things there. I think you said, I'm not going to do that right now. So you stepped away from that a little bit. It
Yep.
wasn't, or at least you took the videos down. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah, I took down some videos, yes,
Okay.
because
Okay.
I was like, yeah, I need to post something more suitable for today's viewers.
Okay.
It just wasn't fitting my criteria in my head, like I'm sort of a
Okay.
perfectionist, and
I
so
get
I
it.
try to post things that would make more of an impact, and I didn't think that was doing that.
It's funny you mentioned that because a while back, now it's like whatever, it doesn't matter. But a while back, I was like, should I take down those old videos? the brand, the channel, everything's kind of changed over the years. And I thought about it. I said, I want to have that snapshot in history. What was it like, that first video? It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But I wanted to have that snapshot and just kind of see the progression, but also have that transparency of where we were and what the journey was moving from 1 to whatever, 100. So yeah, I left mine up. Don't go watch it, anybody. It's terrible. It's still there. It's still there.
No, it's a good documentation of your journey from beginning to now.
With the podcast obviously taking up a lot of your time, are you thinking about moving into anything else in content creation space? Is there any other things you're looking to achieve or add to?
I think right now I am trying to I'm not showing, if you see sort of the trend and progression, I haven't been showing as much of my collection in my recent posts. I've been doing more reels and, market observations and just reels that are entertaining or informative. So basically, I want to, kind of go out of my comfort zone a little bit. Instead of just showing pictures of my collection, I kind of want to show more of myself and who I am behind the screen.
Okay.
Going forward.
Yeah, I did notice that. You start off showing some of your boxes, your cards, what you're grading, what you get back. It transitions a little bit into some promotion for Slab Mags, now some promotion for the podcasts, some market things. Yeah, so I did kind of see that natural progression.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important nowadays to, kind of show who you are so that way people get a sense of who they're following, and I think that would serve more of a purpose and easier to create new friendships and establish new connections down the line with other content creators.
Lee, this for me kind of links to a thought I was having the other day, and it was around what all life has to offer, because it has to offer so much. And I'm often caught saying the phrase, there's just so much to be thankful for. And we've been on this journey. We've been doing a lot of things in the Pokemon space. So many great people like yourself, and we get to expand the friendships and connect, and hopefully one day in person. And it begs to ask the question: well, how do you? Now, this is my question to you. How do you define your success, your joy of the day? Because that obviously shifts as your goal shifts, as the horizon of where you wanted to be now moves into the future. But how does Lee define success? This can be in and outside of Pokemon.
How do I define success?
For you, yes, for you.
For me personally is to have that connection, that human connection with someone else, with another like-minded individual within the community, and build that friendship long-term, where it becomes more meaningful, where it's not like a superficial type of relationship. I think if I'm able to get, if I'm able to establish that friendship, then that's already very rewarding to me. And that is already, in my mind, successful, because that human experience, that interaction means the world to me, to be able to have the friendship, because I feel like that's such an important part of life, is to have that human connection, that ongoing human connection.
Fully agree. Hey, BB, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for stopping by. I saw Zard lurking come by as well. Yeah, and I said it, I don't know how many times in the past, but it's the thing, especially if I speak to it in the context of the Pokemon hobby, it's the thing that I didn't know existed, but it's the reason I stayed. Yeah. And when I was there, I was like, wow, I cannot believe the connection and the community and the people that are here versus other spaces and collectibles and sports and things that I was, in previous years. This is so much different, and it's so much better. People here are just amazing, amazing people in this community. And despite, the robberies and the negative things that do happen from time to time, it's such a small percentage, at least in my mind. That's what I'm gonna tell myself.
Yep.
But I truly do believe it's such a small percentage, and there's so many great people in this hobby, and we all just continue to give and share and just put right back into it, and everybody's bucket gets filled, and the next person gives, and the next person gives, and whether it's time, it's advice, it's a collection piece, whatever it is, it's just everybody's moving in the same direction. I love that. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's, at the end of the day, it's all about human connection for me, because cardboards are just that. It's just materialistic things, because towards end of end of life, like
Mm-hmm.
in the last moments of our lives, like, do we care more about what we own? Do we have that
Right.
first edition Charizard in a collection? I don't think we're going to think about that towards later part of life or
Right.
near the end of our life. But I think we think more back on our interaction with other people, and the connection and the friendship and the love we have for each other. And I think that's the most important thing that I want to establish, while I'm in the community, is to make a positive impact, and to experience that with, the friends that I created a relation or built a relationship with.
I don't know if it was Les Brown that said it first, but Les Brown said something along the lines of, "There's no U-Haul driving behind the hearse, right? So you can't take it with you."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How does that translate for you, I should say, to your life outside of Pokemon, and family, and what you do as a wife and family members, your career? How do you find success and joy in that space? What's that translation?
Well, I prioritize my family over cardboard or social media, and I want to be able to be a good role model for my kids. And
Mm,
so, I want to show them that you can achieve whatever you set your mind to, and hopefully I am that good example throughout this journey that I'm coming down the path of coming along the path with Pokemon collecting, being a content creator, being a mom with a full-time job, right? And I just really want to make sure that I am a good role model for all of my kids. I have 3 kids, and so it can be a quite difficult journey and juggle between
yeah.
finding the right balance sometimes, and I'm still searching for that right balance. But um basically, I want them to show that hard work and
Mm,
setting your mind to achieving what you want, and you can have that as long as you set your mind to it.
fully agree. I love it. Yeah, it's amazing. The kids sit there and they're trying to achieve, something that they're working on or whatever the case may be, and when they say the words "I can't," the red flag just go off for me, and I look at them and say, "You can do anything if you try.
Mhm.
Don't If you give up, you won't. That's for sure. That's for sure. But if you keep going, it may not be what you want the first time, but just try again. But I can't figure it out. Try again. Have you tried this? Have you looked at it this way? Have you X, Y, or Z, right? And changing that perspective and making them look at it from different angles. And it's really opened up the mind, because mine's 9 and 6 now. So a little bit older, they can have these abstract, daddy thinks in abstractions all the time. So analogies and abstractions is where I live. But they can start to understand some of that and say, oh, okay, I see how now I can apply that to this and to this. And it's not just I can get a good grade in school, but now I can make a good decision when I'm with my friends, and maybe they're going to make a poor choice, right? I can make a better one. Yeah,
exactly.
I think this is a beautiful segue into the personal side of Miss Lee Sun here. Where did you grow up, Lee?
So yeah, I mostly grew up in Manhattan, Kansas. That's like the majority part of
Okay,
my childhood. And St. Louis, Missouri is more of you know
the latter half.
the later half,
Okay.
and I moved around quite a bit because later on I'm in Houston,
Mm-hmm.
Texas,
Right,
right?
right, right.
And so I've been moving around because of my husband's job and his
Okay.
commitment to his training. So he
Mm-hmm.
he was in residency at the time we met in Missouri, and after he completed his training, we moved to Houston, and now we're in Portland. So I've been
Okay.
just moving all around the country.
Yeah.
So I'm in Portland in the
Okay.
Pacific Northwest
Okay.
as of right now.
And what does he do for a living?
He is a pediatric surgeon.
Okay. So he's going through the training, and that's one of the nice things about being in the medical field. And it's not easy, obviously, to move. Period, because I hate moving, but at least you can get a job in every one of the hospitals. Like, there's always something there that you can try to find. So it does give some great opportunities when you do have to move. It's not like, hey, I worked at this one company that only exists in this one state, and now I've lost everything. So
Yeah, I mean, it's been easy for me to find a job.
yeah,
Everywhere I go, I'm able to find a job pretty easily, and so I'm very grateful for that.
yeah. Well, all right. So you met your husband how?
So he was doing his research year. So God bless these residents. They train for so long. And my husband was doing additional training. So he did 3 years of research.
Okay.
And so during research year, that's when they have the majority of their free time compared to when they're
Mm,
training. They're always in the hospital. So he had a block of time where he had time to meet me. And so we met up at a mutual friends party, and that's how we got connected.
okay. And how did you know each other prior to that? Because it sounds like there was at least you knew of each other through
Uh,
friends.
through friends, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
No, I mean, we didn't meet at the hospital, even though I
Right.
was working as a nurse. It was totally through a mutual friend at
Okay.
like a outside party that's not related to like the hospital.
All right. All right. So you started your journey, and you've been married for how long?
6 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
And so, what are the ages of your three kids?
1, 4, and 6.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're in trouble.
Yeah, do you see why I'm always so busy?
Yeah, you've covered the age ranges where you have, I need all your attention. If you let me go by myself, I'm gonna make a big mess and do something else. And then six is just try me, just
Yeah,
try me.
exactly. They're opinionated, right? Like they have their own
Yeah,
opinions on things. And
uh,
so I'm just always so tired. I'm like
yeah.
always so tired, and I already have vitamin D deficiency because I live in Portland where there's like no sun. But now in
Mm,
the summertime it's pretty sunny, but Portland, it's a very rainy city.
mm.
Much like Seattle. So I just feel like they're sucking energy out of me. So I need more caffeine
More
all the time.
caffeine, vitamin D. I do. I know you can't always do it, obviously, if it's raining, but um, I do a lot of runs in the sun.
Hmm.
And so that's because I'm always inside, like I'm always busy. We're with the kids, we're doing whatever, right? But I do 2, maybe 3 days a week. I'll do a run in the sun, and just it's brutally hot and it's terrible, right? I feel like a very poor version of David Goggins waiting to call a cab ride, but I get a lot of good sun that way, and it really helps out.
Yeah.
It's been a good change in my exercise routine.
That's great to be able to run outside, enjoy the weather and the nature. That's very
Oh, it's so
therapeutic.
nice. Yes, yeah. It's the time I get to really reset. So kind of to your point, it's it's counterintuitive. Obviously, you spend more energy and you kind of get some energy back, right? So you go for a run and you feel better, but you've spent a ton of energy. But it's my
Yeah.
time to reset and really just let go of everything. There's even times where I don't take any electronic, no phone, no nothing, and just go and just be in, because we have a greenway behind us, so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a trail. So we kind of run back there into the business park area and come back, and it's just so peaceful and nice, and I love it. I love it.
That's awesome. I should be doing some of that. And I'm sure it's, super calming and
Mm-hmm.
kind of get the stress out.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely helps a lot. Definitely helps a lot. No worries. Ultra, thanks for stopping by. Whoop, sorry. You as well. No, Pokey Kid is looking for a mom. Sorry, I missed that one. This one here. Pokey Kid, thanks for stopping by. No worries. Just swing by when you can. It's always a pleasure to see you, and we'll catch you on the next one, buddy.
Thanks for dropping by.
Yep, no worries, Retro. Yeah, man. I'll always support. Do good stuff. Obviously, good contributions in the hobby, and that's what makes it all go round, man. Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you. All right, Lee. So 6 years in, 3 kids with a varying age. We actually talked about it just a little bit earlier, but I would like to maybe pull the thread just a little bit more.
Oof.
How do you find the balance on the work and the life and the family? I mean, I know some days you probably feel like you're going crazy and just want to pull your hair out.
Yeah.
But what's the trigger for you? Are you internally aware enough to say, okay, hey, look, this bucket is maybe a little bit low. I need to put some time here, or is it you just being pulled and it's always just a reactionary movement of your effort and energy from one place to the next? What's your way to try to sort out the balance in your day?
I try to take it one thing at a time, solving one problem at a time, and also try to pre-plan. So, for example, pre-planning a meal, pre-planning out the day. That
Right.
way, I'm not behind, and I know, the exact plan for the day, the layout, the blueprint, and something to fall back on if I get off track. So
Right.
that's how I kind of stay on track. For the day. With 3 kids, they go to school, and so it's a good period of time when I have some downtime to catch up on things such as the stuff that I'm doing right now, content creation, being
Right.
a brand ambassador. So I do have some time, a block of time to be able to do these things, and so I just kind of space it out and have a plan in
Okay.
mind of when I can do a certain thing. And for work, work is fairly easy. To me, I really enjoy work as well. It's a 9 to 5 type of job. It's very low stress compared to what I was used to.
It doesn't come
So
home with you, like you don't have to take work home and work on the weekends or nothing like that.
yeah, exactly. So to me, it's really easy. Work is really easy compared to what I was used to doing. So it's easy
Okay.
breezy.
So it kind of sounds like you've been able to capture this in time blocks, and so you're really doing time blocks of your time with some good preparation, obviously in advance. But that kind of helps. And does your husband have to travel a lot, or does he also just work locally and he's also home on a regular schedule?
Yeah, he does have to travel at times, and
Okay.
and those time period would be tough for me. And I
Yeah.
do have some help during those
Okay.
times, so it's very manageable, I think.
Okay.
I know it sounds like it's a lot, maybe to others, but um, I feel like I got the routine down
Yeah.
to where I feel like I can handle all these tasks. And part of me being and working in the ICU, I'm very good at prioritizing and tackle each task in a
Right.
timely, efficient manner because, at those instances, I have to save a person's life or to identify something that is going to go wrong. And
Right.
intuitively, I just know how to pre-plan those things out well enough to where it would work for me without being frazzled.
Right. Well, a lot of quick thinking, a lot of fast responses, yeah, problem solving. It's those skill sets go a long, long way, long way.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you got a good handle on everything. Yeah, and I would agree. We even talked, my wife and I, about having another child at some point. We got two, as I mentioned, and we were like, "How do we have more time? Like, we don't have time for a third. We're struggling as it is." And somebody told us before we had our first one day, they said something along the lines of, "Once you get past a certain number, like you just figure it out. Like it doesn't matter. You just always figure it out. You'll find the time." There is no preparation to say, well, the third child or the fourth child, it's gonna be the time is too much. But
Yeah, you figure it out. Oh, yeah. If when you are facing those problems head on, and you can figure things out as long as you look at the whole picture and take it one at a time and decide what is more important to take care of first by prioritizing and just kind of tackle it from top down and just get it done. Don't wait around because it's not going to do it yourself. You really have to be motivated and be determined
yeah,
to tackle those problems.
yeah. What keeps you going? There's times where it's really hard, whether it's work, it's family, it's a problem personally for just yourself. What's the things that keep you moving through those tough times? What really forces you to take that next step instead of saying, you know what, I'm just gonna sit down. I can't. I'm done. What's the thing that keeps you moving?
What keeps me moving? Well, mostly because going back to that, I want to set a good example for my kids. I have to be able to stay strong for them as they look up to me. So, I don't think I don't give myself the option of slowing down or giving up. To
Right.
me, it's sort of like I have no choice, sort of
Right.
thing to keep going,
Right.
and I just do it.
Yeah. And my wife often uses the words, it's my duty. It's my duty.
Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. iFOMO showing some love. PokeSun's so cool. You're an inspiration to the hobby. He says
Thank you.
you
Thank
definitely
you.
inspired me. Navi Station, saying the
Thank,
same thing. Fully
thank
agree.
you. I appreciate you guys so much.
Um, so if we think of for a second here, Lee, outside of Pokemon, for just a minute, what excites you? What are you excited about outside of this Pokemon space?
Oh, you asked so many good questions that what excites me is, going on vacations. I think it's also always good to take a mental break from everything like social media, work, and just take a
Mm-hmm.
break, go somewhere else, pack up, go somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
tropical or not.
Right.
It's just to be able to take those breaks, mental breaks from all the dramas.
Because I noticed when I listen to you speak and the little nuances therein, I can tell you kind of stay in tune with news, market, international relations, probably a bit more than others, and that is very taxing, to our opening points around, you know, your challenges in ICU, for example. It can be a dark place because we know how news works. We know it's the car crashes that make you look. It's not the people handing out flowers, right? So it's a very clickbaity type of situation, even in that news space. And so that's why I was very curious as to what, keeps you going, because you also, on the same coin, but other side, seem very happy. You're always smiling. You're very positive. And so I was wondering about that contrast between, okay, she obviously sees, reads, learns, studies, knows these things are here, is aware of, economics, politics, war. It's all been mentioned, but yet she comes to work, or I'm sure the same with family, and then here in podcasts and in your podcast with a smile. So I was wondering what excites you, what kind of keeps you bringing that smile to the table. That was the reason.
So I was reading a book called The Secret by
That's a good
Rhonda
book.
Burns, The Law of Attraction.
Yes.
So basically, your thoughts become what you believe, and it will manifest. And so if I keep thinking positively, I truly believe that I will continue to attract that positive light. And and so your thoughts matter. And so I'm actively practicing positive thinking. So I think maybe that is translating through.
Okay. I love that you brought that up. I got such a great story, and people listening to this would think that we had like hours and hours of conversation. We mapped these intersections of our conversation. It just so happens that's what happens when two people get together and they think alike.
Yeah.
When my wife and I were first dating, I went to her apartment, and she introduced me to The Secret at the time on, I don't know, it was maybe Netflix or
Netflix.
it was a Netflix special, but I think she even had it. She had first bought it in Spanish as a book before they released the special.
Oh wow.
And she asked me if I had read it before. I was like, no, I've never even heard about it. I don't know what you're talking about. But she introduced it to me, and I think it was even on DVD, or maybe I'm wrong about that part. But anyways, I watched it, and I was blown away. Not because it was some magical key or it gave me all the answers to my life problems, but just nobody had spoken to me about these things my entire life.
Right.
I watched that movie, and I'm not joking, probably more than 20 or 30 times.
Nice.
And I never did read the book, but I did watch the movie quite a lot. That led us on a journey with, you heard me mention earlier, Les Brown, a bunch of other, I'm trying to think of his name, big guy, Tony Robbins. Like we went through so many different personal growth journeys after being into this. And the starting point for me was The Secret. So it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I do agree with you.
That's amazing.
Attention goes where energy flows, right? So you put your energy there, and you're going to create whatever that is. So be careful what you think about, what you feel, because you will create it. And I said to somebody, maybe it was you, Zard Lurking. Maybe it was somebody else. I wrote a little note on an energy card when I sent out their prizes, and so, be careful what you're looking for, because you'll find it. So make sure you're looking for the right things.
Yeah, that book was life-changing. I watched the Netflix movie version of it. I have the book version of it, and it's just, I mean, it is mind-blowing for me when I first watched it, and I shared it with my husband, and we both were like mind blown. And because thinking back, we were like, oh, all the times we were thinking so positively and things just happened the way we thought it would, it really did materialize. And so,
and it's a misconception too. I like to speak to the point, maybe you want to add to it, where people think, oh, you're just positive thinking, and that doesn't do anything. No, I understand the point there. You still have to do the work. You still have to put an effort towards the goal, or your job, or your career, or your family. It doesn't mean magical things are going to fall from the sky, but it changes everything in how you interact with those spaces. So that's really the point. It's not about just, I'm going to wish for things and it's going to fall in my lap. No, but it changes who you are. It changes the energy you project to others, which also then changes your interaction, changes your outcome, changes how they feel, changes who they interact with.
Exactly.
Everything changes after that moment. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It really changes the way you think can have a physiological effect on your
Yes.
body.
Yes.
So, like, I don't know if you remember a talk by Amy Cuddy through TED Talk a long time ago with power posing. And she did a study where if you're standing in like a position where you're standing like a sort of like a superwoman power
Right.
pose or
Yeah.
position like
Yeah.
that, opening where you're opening up your posture instead of
Yeah.
being like this, that it could decrease your cortisol level,
Mm-hmm.
and basically that increases your energy level
Right.
and how people perceive you,
Yep.
in interviews. And so I think it really has a positive effect. When you think positively, your posture also kind of changes along with it. You open
Yep.
up your posture, and I think that does have an effect
I agree.
in a way, and I think that will translate,
Yep.
further down the road, and it can affect what you really want to manifest.
And Tony Robbins does a lot of breathing work and posture work. He does a lot of that too as well. Yeah,
Amazing.
Crystal, fully agree with you. You got to manifest what you want, but also put in the work. But a good mindset changes everything. Fully agree, Crystal. Well said. Well said.
Good mindset.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think this was a great intersection because I didn't quite know that you had also watched that. And the reason probably we are so well aligned is because of the way that we're thinking, because of some of those intersections between The Secret and changing the way we want to have things outcome and manifest itself. So beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
With that, Lee, we'll bring it into our graceful close with two final questions, as we often do. And it's so ironic because I look at the question that I wrote for you, and as our conversation unfolded, which is partially why I smile so frequently, other than obviously the very moment that we're in, but I also see the correlations between what I was writing or thinking about as I prepare for these types of podcasts and the actual conversation that's unfolding dynamically in the moment. So you'll see my point here. Raising children to be a positive contribution to society is perhaps one of our strongest, most important, and rewarding jobs as a parent. What would be 3 lessons that you hope to instill within your children as they become adults and move into society?
To be kind to others, to be able to communicate your thoughts properly. And I guess a third would probably be, to be honest and truthful with everything that you do.
Beautiful. And you see how our previous conversations about children and being a role model, it all kind of flowed perfectly right into that. And
Yeah.
I
Perfect.
anticipated some of it because I think through the conversation, with the guest, and I obviously have done a little bit of research, so I know that you're a mother, and I know what that means, and I can tell the kind of person that you are just based on how you present yourself and how you talk. So it was beautiful to see your explanation of going through motherhood, responsibility, how you want to raise and bring up your children, and so gracefully and well said here on 3 lessons learned.
Thank you. Thank you.
Last but not leastly, as we often do, we'll one day, hopefully no time soon, but we'll leave the hobby. And what legacy do you hope that you can leave in the hobby when you're gone, Lee?
Well, with the reels and with the videos that I leave behind, hopefully that is a good documentation of my journey and transition through different phases of who I am as a collector throughout my journey. And hopefully one day my kids will see and get inspired by those, clips or video podcast segments, and do something and be less fearful of doing those things that you're scared to do, and just put yourself out there and let the world get to know who your true authentic self is, and show the world who you are.
It is truly at that moment when we get to show the world our authentic self that it starts to really open up for us. That's when it really starts to happen. All the things we hide and we think, oh, they won't like me, they won't like this, I can't show them this side of me. It's once those things are gone, the world just receives you, and there's untold potential. So fully
Exactly.
agree. Awesome answer. Everybody, as we always say, we thank you so much for your time. Lee, we thank you so much for donating your time with us here today. I know we're about, both of us, to go head off and take care of family and kids from here on out today. But anybody watching afterwards, we also appreciate your time, your support. Check out the SMP podcast. Link is below. Also, Lee Sun's Instagram is below. If you're not subscribed, if you haven't looked at it, please go check it out. You won't be disappointed. Lots of great stuff. And I'm really excited to see what that podcast has to bring as well. So keep it up, Jesse. Hope to talk to you soon. Lee, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Everybody else, we hope to see you on the next Pokemon Rants.
Thank you so much, everyone.